How's it going, guys? I'm Mike Dwyer from The Bunker Recordings and BetterMixes.com, and today we're going to take a look at 10 must-have accessories for your home studio. So just worth noting, some of these are things that pretty much any home studio should have, and others are going to be a little bit more dependent on what you record in your studio. So with that, let's get right into it with number 1, the TuneBot. This thing is an absolute must-have for anybody recording live drums. I basically like to think of it as a guitar tuner for your drums. Now obviously you still need to know what to tune your drums to, but this makes getting there a lot faster, and once you find settings you like on your drums, it makes it super fast and easy to go back to them, to get consistent drum sounds over and over. It's also great for making sure your drums are staying in tune throughout the tracking of a song. For instance, you might record a few passes of the song, and then you go to do a cut between the two to use the first half of the first take and the second half of the third take, or something like that. And sometimes you'll hear that the snare drum drifted down in pitch as it was being played. So when you do a hard edit like that, you suddenly hear your snare drum get lower. And you might not have noticed it while tracking because it goes down gradually. But with the TuneBot, at the beginning of tracking, you can see what your snare is tuned to, and before each take, make sure it's still there. There's also a great app that does more or less the same thing. It's called DrumTune Pro. I do like the TuneBot better because it clamps right to the rim of your drum, so it keeps both your hands free. But the app is considerably cheaper and will still get the job done. Moving on to number 2 on our list, the D'Addario Guitar Dock. If you ever have guitarists just leaving their guitars leaning up against the couch or leaning up against the table or stand or something, just waiting to get knocked over, then the guitar dock is for you. This is it right here. It just clamps onto any table or stand or rack or whatever. It can even rotate the clamp so you can clamp it on at different angles. But you can just clamp it on wherever guitarists leave their guitars hanging out. And then you push the guitar in, and it is not going anywhere. Cannot get knocked over. Seriously recommend having a dozen of those throughout your studio. Just clamp one of those onto every surface and you'll never have that problem. So sticking with the guitar theme, number 3 on our list is fret wraps. So this is it right here. It's basically just a cloth that wraps around the neck of your guitar and it mutes the strings. So what I really like this for is when I'm recording solos or riffs or really anything that doesn't involve open strings. I'll put this on to mute the strings that aren't being played. Because a lot of the time when you're playing riffs, when you lift a finger off a string, it'll be ringing out. And if you're going into a distorted amp, it can really exaggerate that and get kind of sloppy and nasty sounding. So this just mutes all the strings. So when you lift your fingers off, it doesn't make any noise. I've seen people do the same thing by taping the strings down, but that kills your strings a lot faster because it's got all that gunk stuck to them. And these are so cheap, you might as well just get one and save your strings. And for the last guitar-related accessory on our list, we have number 4, a clip-on tuner. This one here is from TC Electronic, and I really like this one because it's super, super accurate. And the clamp fits on any guitar, even tiny little Telecaster heads. And the reason I think everybody should have a clip-on tuner like this is while pedal tuners are great, if you're otherwise not using any pedals, it can just be a little bit of a pain in the butt to set up. Or for instance, if you're recording with amp sims and just plugging directly into your interface, just having one of these sitting on your desk ready to grab is much faster and easier than going and getting your pedal tuner, finding a power supply for it. Then you need to grab a separate DI to split the signal to go to the tuner and the interface, or you have to unplug from your interface and into the tuner and back. This just makes it so much easier. So now number 5 on the list, a nice chair. This might seem pretty obvious, but I know for years I was using like a $30 office chair with old worn out padding and no back support. And when you're spending 6, 8, or even 10 hours sitting in a chair in your studio, you should get a good one. Now, probably like the best chair out there is the Herman Miller Aeron, but those cost a small fortune. But luckily, a lot of companies have started making pretty similar chairs for considerably cheaper. But a few things to look for are obviously comfort, because again, if you're sitting in it all day, you want it to be comfortable. Some good lumbar support so you don't have an achy back all the time. And I'm personally a fan of the ones with the mesh back and bottom, because it keeps you from having a sweaty back on hot summer days. But seriously, if you're spending this much time sitting in a chair, it's worth spending a bit of money on a good one. Also, a little bonus accessory here that goes along with that is a convertible standing desk. I recently converted my desk here to a standing desk. I can just hit this button and it goes up, and I hit that button and it goes back down. So if I've got like a lot of editing or something to do, I can raise the desk up and stand for a little while to get onto my feet. I found I've been able to work longer because of that, just by switching between sitting and standing, so I'm not in one position for so long, and my back has definitely thanked me. So sticking with the comfort theme, next up is a really comfortable pair of headphones. Now obviously sound quality is critical when it comes to headphones, but you don't want to overlook comfort. I'm sure a lot of you have home studios that are a single room, so if you're recording drums or vocals or anything like that, you need to be working on headphones. And if you're wearing them for hours at a time, you want them to be comfortable. And the same thing goes for musicians you have in your studio. A singer is probably going to perform better if they've got a nice comfy pair of headphones as opposed to one that's squeezing their head super tight. I really like these Beyerdynamic DT770s. They sound good and they're really, really comfy. I wouldn't mind wearing these pretty much all day. Now on to number 7, we have a cable tester. This one here is the Behringer CT200. And it's pretty cheap, but it does everything you need it to do. It's got connections for XLR, quarter-inch, Speak-On, Ethernet, RCA, MIDI, USB, 1/8 inch, everything you could possibly need. Cables stop working sometimes. This sorts it out really quickly so you can find the problem and move on. Also, if you're handy with a soldering iron, this will tell you what's wrong with the cable so you can fix it. And speaking of soldering irons, that's number 8 on our list. Now that you found that broken cable, with a soldering iron and just a little bit of practice, you can fix it instead of buying a new one. It's also handy to have around in case you're having a problem with your guitar or something. Maybe the wire going to the output jack got disconnected. If you have a soldering iron, you can fix it in a couple minutes instead of having to run to your local guitar store and have them do it for you. Also, having some decent soldering skills can be a great way to save a lot of money because you can start making your own cables for way cheaper than buying them already made. Now, number 9 on our list is a toolkit. Just having some general purpose tools on hand is always a good idea because you never know what's going to break. A couple things you'll definitely want in there are a few different types of screwdrivers, a set of Allen wrenches, maybe some pliers. If you need to adjust the bridge or the truss rod on a guitar, you can do that. Or if you need to adjust the pickup height or whatever, they'll definitely come in handy. And finally, number 10 on our list, an external hard drive. Hopefully you already have one of these, or even better, a couple of them, because they're super critical. You should be backing up your sessions onto an external drive as soon as you're done with them for the day. So just in case your main drive ever fails, you didn't lose your sessions. Now I recommend you get a huge drive, something like 5 or 10 terabytes or something. That way you can just dump sessions onto it when you're done and not have to worry about it. Because you never know when a band might call you up and ask for an instrumental version of a song you mixed for them a year ago. If you don't have an extra drive, you probably would have deleted that session by now and won't be able to help them out. And hard drive space is so cheap these days. Just do yourself a favor, get a drive, or even better yet, a couple of them, and you won't have to worry about it. And one more bonus accessory here is some kind of backup software. My favorite one is Synchronize Pro X, but there are other ones including Carbon Copy Cloner and Get Backup 3. You have a lot more control of exactly what you want to do as opposed to just dragging and dropping. Plus it'll only copy files that aren't in the second location, so it goes a lot faster. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And let me know in the comments down below if there are any cool accessories I didn't mention in this video. Also, be sure to head on over to bettermixes.com to grab a free copy of my Ultimate EQ cheat sheet.